to Tech Talk. Today's Tech Talk subject is email configurations for your business. And thank you all for attending. I'm Tricia Sauer, the Marketing Analyst for Nex-Tech's Business Technology Group. I did want to give you a quick reminder that on the right side of your screen, if you have any questions throughout the webinar, you can sure type them in there and we'll answer everyone's at the end of the webinar. With that said, I'd like to introduce Steve Riot and Ashley Heaton, who will present today's Tech Talk.
Thank you, Tricia. I have the privilege of sitting here with Ashley Heaton today, and he's one of our senior engineers here. But not only is he one of the senior guys, but he also has the most experience here at Nex-Tech with Exchange and email clients in general, and has done a lot of migrations and different work with a whole bunch of different versions. In fact, very recently, Ashley and I worked together on a particular project that had well over 100 different clients. And I don't know, Ashley, are you done getting those migrated, or are you in the middle of that still?
It's pretty much finished. Just got some loose ends to tie up, but as far as the meat of the project, we are good to go.
And I can tell you that it was a very high-profile client for Nex-Tech, and of course, we're not going to give away their name due to the privacy, but there was no alternative to fail for us because it would have been pretty public here, but I can tell you that it actually made that thing, you laid out a nice plan for the customer, and the customer worked together with us in their IT department to do some migration to this new product that they're using, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But to get us started, Ashley, one of the things that I know is, we tend to lead with Exchange, but with that, I know there's a lot of free services. There's Gmail, there's Hotmail, there's all these kind of free services. And I know that you've helped customers with those products before. What has your experience been, and why are particularly why are you leading with Exchange, and why do you think that that's probably the best business product out there?
Right. Well, as you can see by the slide, this hits the major points as to why somebody would want to use Exchange. Most of the time, customers will come to us and say, well, I'd like to be able to have all my employees see a particular calendar, or maybe even have a receptionist or a secretary or personal assistant be able to manage my calendar or something like that. And these are things that you can kind of do with the free products. And when, let's be clear, when we're talking about the free products, our biggest competitor in this market probably is Gmail, which of course is provided by Google. Their business apps, and which include the Gmail product, is something that some customers, depending on if you're a government organization or maybe possibly a school, can sometimes get for low cost, or maybe in some cases even free. So it's sometimes hard to convince a customer that the value of purchasing Exchange or going with a hosted Exchange solution is better than the free products that are out there. So the positives is, for the most part, these free products tend to work on a very basic level. You've got your basic emailing back and forth, and in most cases a basic calendar, and so on and so forth. But where they start to break down and they start to not get done what you need to get done is basically when you're sharing this information with other people. On a basic level, you might be able to email a calendar to somebody that they can view, or maybe even post it online so they can view it as a web page. But in a lot of cases, they can't edit it, make changes to it, or it's an all or nothing type of deal where they can absolutely see everything or they can't see anything at all, which are all things that are possible within Microsoft's Exchange environment. So it's one of those things where, if all you need is email and that's it, maybe those solutions will work for you. But the other place that we've had real issues in the past, because we will work with customers who are using those products, but the biggest letdown is usually in the area of support. So when you're using your email and for some reason you send an email to somebody and it doesn't get there, or somebody's trying to email you and it's getting returned or not getting to your mailbox for some reason, with the free services and even some of the paid business services from Google and Microsoft on the Hotmail side, you either don't get any support, or the support you get may be email-based only, or something to that effect. I've dealt with Google on several occasions where we've had customers using their business apps product, and I've had to wait up to 3 days for somebody to even respond to a support request on a problem we're having. So there is some value with the hosted Exchange products in the fact that in most cases you can have somebody on the phone with you not only the same day, but most of the time within an hour or two to get an answer to your question, or at least get the ball rolling on figuring out why something isn't working. So not only does Exchange offer more features from a perspective of being able to share calendars and contacts and tasks and basically be able to collaborate a lot easier, but also with the hosted Exchange product, I guess the old adage is true, especially when you're dealing with a free product, is you get what you pay for. So if you go with the low-end free products on a basic level, they will function, but a lot of times you're kind of left high and dry when it comes to figuring out issues or problems.
All right. So, and that's what we here at Nex-Tech use is the Exchange, and I know that I'm a heavy user because I connect multiple devices now. They say that these mobile devices, but I use the web client, I use the cell phone, I use my tablet, my iPad. I also have an Android tablet, and of course I have my laptop that's connected to it, and I know that all works pretty seamlessly too. And has that been your experience? I know that you work a lot with Nex-Tech Wireless and a lot of their different devices, whether it be things from everything from BlackBerries to Windows Mobile to iPhones to a little bit of everything. And I know that you've connected all of those things to Exchange, right?
Right. So, Exchange is kind of the de facto standard for collaboration, whether people like it or not. And the bottom line is any type of device that you would expect to be able to get your email on will support the native Exchange Active Sync protocol probably within the last, probably 2 years. So even if your phone is a couple of years old, chances are you'll natively be able to sync it and then basically have the ability to have all of your contacts and all of your email and your calendar and everything like that right there on your phone or your tablet or whatever it is you choose to sync up. The other great thing about it is you can sync as many devices to your account as you like, what you were talking about there. So you can have tablets, phones, multiple phones connected up to your mailbox however you want to do it. And while the free services do offer basic syncing functionality, as far as to whether or not phones support it or not, most of the time you're going to be installing some type of third-party application or something onto the phone if it's not provided by the person you're getting the phone from in order to make that happen. So the bottom line is pretty much any device out there today will support syncing up with an Exchange product versus some of the free services. It's pretty hit or miss, or you do have to do some considerable configuration to get it going.
All right. So we're going to move forward with the assumption that Exchange is kind of the right answer, because one of the things that's key to us here at Nex-Tech is that, no matter where somebody buys the application from, that they can get support and make it run, because they're running their business, and email being down is really not acceptable. So with that becomes a big question. Do you buy a server, put it on site, or do you put it out hosted in the cloud? And I know that that's becoming a bigger and bigger question for most people. And I put a list of things that you might consider in making that decision. And Ashley, can you take us through some of the thinking on some of the recent places that you've been? And I know that you've been kind of helping customers through this process.
Right. So the biggest push for hosted Exchange is going to be the fact that it's just so much less work on the customer's part, on their IT department, or if they don't have an IT department, it's a lot less cost-wise to hire somebody to come in and do the IT work. If you're going to keep a server in your location and use that as your Exchange server, which is the traditional method of doing the email, then basically you're going to have to pay somebody to maintain that server, much less buy the server and the software. And there's a lot of extra costs in there that a lot of times people don't think about, which are listed on this page. You have to provide your own backup. You have to provide your own archiving, spam filtering, antivirus. If you're using BlackBerries, you're going to have a BlackBerry Enterprise server, which is the Bez on the left side there. So there's a lot of extra costs that go along with purchasing your own equipment that a lot of people aren't aware of. It's not as simple as simply just buying a computer, installing Exchange on it, and then running down the road with it. So, the hosted solution, the reason that we've started, suggesting this to a lot of our clients is simply because you remove the majority of the back-end maintenance and the back-end work and all the worries and headaches that go with having your own email server in-house, and you basically reposition all that worry to the hosting company or to us, basically, and then we take care of all of that for you. So you're basically in the long run, probably going to come out ahead. One of the factors that a lot of people don't really factor in as well is what happens if your server goes offline for some reason. What if you have a hardware failure or, even worse, some database corruption or something like that? It can take, an inordinate amount of time to repair something like that, especially if you don't have the greatest backup and recovery procedures in place. It may end up costing you thousands of dollars for just one instance, not to mention the lost productivity because your mail server's down during that entire time. So this takes all of that and places it onto the hosting provider or ourselves to make sure that doesn't happen to keep you up and running there. So right away, most people will see a huge advantage to the hosting solution versus the on-site solution simply because you just don't have to worry about it. It's off in the cloud and it just works. And if you have to make any changes or anything like that to it, it's usually as easy as checking a box on a website or something to that effect. So that's probably the biggest selling point of it, and one that most IT departments usually agree is the biggest reason to get that Exchange server out of your data center and into somebody else's and make it their problem.
And actually, I know that you gave a great explanations on some of the details. And me and Tricia were talking before this because she was trying to understand some of the basics of this. And one of the things that came up is that if you have an Exchange server on site and your internet connection goes down, you can't get email, right?
Right, because obviously email flows over the internet. So if you lose your internet connection, basically you would be able to send internally amongst yourselves. But we all know the important email comes probably from the outside world. And if your internet connection is down, then you basically can't get anything from the outside world to or from it until you get that problem resolved. The hosting company is going to have 99.999% uptime, meaning that their services are probably never going to be down, and if they are, you probably wouldn't even notice because it's such a short amount of time. But the other thing that's a major advantage of this is, as we were talking about earlier, with all of your mobile connected devices, such as your phone or your tablet or anything like that, the phones in special cases, they almost always have an internet connection these days that's redundant or actually separated from your internal internet connection. So they will still have internet access. You'll still be able to send and receive mail on your phone if you've got a hosted solution versus a in-house solution where your internet's down. The server can't communicate with anything, so therefore you can't send it out. But in the hosted solution, even if your local internet's down, you can use those devices to send and receive mail while you're getting your internet connection repaired so you can get your clients internally back onto the server. So there's a huge advantage in that case. Even if somebody needs to run back to their house and use the webmail to get into it so that they can send and receive mail in that respect, it's just a lot better as far as keeping yourself connected during outages on your local site.
So moving forward, one of the things that a lot of folks are worried about is, really this is a cloud application, and sometimes folks are a little concerned about the term cloud. And I know that some of the things we go through here is, first of all, email is a really great service to move as a first application to the cloud. We've done this for a bunch of different clients, and they've found that they really liked it. And looking at it from my perspective is that, we're talking about data centers that are redundantly up on, kind of East Coast, West Coast, that kind of thing, with redundant power, redundant cooling, redundant internet connections, all that stuff. Most of our users really like the predictable cost, so it's just a cost per client per month. So if you go up users, down users, your cost kind of changes based on that. Whereas if you own that Exchange server, you have to buy your licenses, and it's kind of a fixed, you paid for it one way or another. The reliability is a big deal, and I know, Ashley, you had a great statement. You've been involved with this for several years. What have you seen downtime-wise?
The only time I've ever seen our hosting provider down is when they do updates, and that's always announced. They usually do them in the wee hours of the morning on the weekends when most people aren't using their mail anyway. But I'll be honest with you, I don't believe with our hosting provider I've ever actually seen an outage that was due to some sort of equipment failure or anything like that. I guess I'll knock on wood here, but when they say the 99.999%, they mean it.
All right. Some other additional things, storage is becoming a bigger deal. I remember when I got my first email account, I got like 100 meg of storage, and I think it feels like I use that much every day. And now I think the most basic mailbox, is this right, 25 gig of mail storage?
Right, right. With our hosting provider, when you sign up for an account, you can immediately have that 25 gigabytes available to you. And it's kind of like the old adage, how would anybody ever fill up 25 gigabytes with mail? But I'm sure here in a year or two, I'll probably be saying, how would anybody ever fill up 100 gigabytes of mail into that? So yeah, I mean, and if you look at it, just from looking, I believe Gmail's free service, by the way, they only give you around 10 gig. And again, don't have that much mail, so maybe that's irrelevant to you. But the fact is, it's there for you to use if you need it. So, gone are the days where you have to decide what to keep and what to delete. If you wanted to, you could probably pretty much keep just about everything that came in.
And then the next piece of this is, there's some facts in here, and we'll skip over some of them pretty quickly. But like Outlook, a lot of our customers now don't want to buy Outlook. It's included with the service, so you can install that local Outlook client, 2010, which is the most current version, and that way you don't have to buy full-blown Office if you have somebody that's not really going to use the additional features, or buy Outlook by itself, which is kind of expensive just as a client by itself. Of course, spam and virus protection is a pretty important piece of that, and we're going to talk about that control panel. I know I've got that a little bit later here, and Ashley kind of walk us through that. Of course, web access, Ashley already talked about that, the active sync for the mobility, and of course, public folders. But, hosted, I've just put a really simple picture out here of just kind of everything just so you can kind of tell. But Ashley, from an end user perspective, if I'm sitting there, if I'm the user, which, I typically am, will I even know that I'm hosted versus on-premise? That's the biggest question.
Right. From an interface standpoint and from a functionality standpoint, no. There's absolutely no difference. The only real difference that you might see, especially if you currently have an internal Exchange server, is depending on the speed of your internet connection, there may be some delays in sending and receiving mail. But when I say delay, I'm talking about the difference between now sending an email and taking 5 to 10 seconds to reach somebody else's mailbox on your server versus maybe it taking 25 to 30 seconds to reach their mailbox. So it's not like your email is going to be delayed for an hour or even 10 minutes or 5 minutes. It's just some people are really used to hitting that send button and having it instantly appear on the other end of the thing, when in this case, and again, this all really depends on how fast your internet speed is. It may take a little bit longer to the tune of 15 to 30 seconds, somewhere around there, to see that email on the other side. And of course, if you deal with large attachments on your emails, upwards of 5, 10, 15, 20 megabit attachments, whether they're pictures or PDF files or anything like that, realistically, you have to understand that data has to travel up to the data center server and then back down to whoever receives it. So that's really the only thing that you would notice as far as the differences between having an on-premise server or a server that is hosted up in the cloud. And honestly, if you've got a decent modern internet connection, a lot of that really is not the case either, because it's so fast now that it's basically almost as good as being local as far as the speed is concerned.
Excellent. So the next obvious question is, what features could I lose by going to hosted? Is there anything that if I have my own server versus a hosted, what am I going to miss?
Not really anything. You basically lose complete control over the server. So there are some things that you can do in the back end of the Exchange server itself that maybe more advanced IT departments might like to do in regards to, the only real downside I could see is if you have any specialty software that integrates with Exchange, some sort of software that actually installs within the Exchange architecture. Obviously, if you don't have direct control over the server, like you won't in the hosted solution, you would not be able to install that particular piece of software. In most cases, the functionality that software provides is probably offered by the hosting provider. It's just one of those things where you have to maybe use a different brand of product that does the same thing or something like that. So, these are all things that would need to be discussed upon first contact as far as what your expectations are and what you're currently using. But as far as somebody who either has never had Exchange, in the past, or has been working with one of the free email clients or anything like that, pretty much all the features that you need are going to be available to you. It's only the people who have had servers in the past that have some highly specialized setups that we really find, might lose something that they've had previously.
Now, it's also been your experience that you're actually seeing people kind of gaining features sometimes because a lot of our customers that we've seen that have Exchange currently are on older versions.
Right, right. So that's, and I forgot to mention that, and one of the biggest positives here is, and also negative cost-wise on hosting your own server. The current version of Exchange is 2010. Microsoft has 2013 in beta right now, which will be released probably towards the end of this year. So every 3 to 4 years, Microsoft releases a new version of Exchange, and if you want the features that that particular version brings to the table, not only are you going to have to purchase the software again, but you're going to have to repurchase licensing, you're going to have to pay somebody to install it and configure it, and then you also may have to replace your backup software, your antivirus software, because most of the time those software products are built for a specific version. They may not necessarily operate correctly on the next version. So one of the biggest pluses as far as hosted is concerned is if you do want to move to the latest version with the hosting provider, that's something that they do on the back end themselves. There may be cost involved with that, but it won't be anything compared to what upgrading your local Exchange server would be. So yeah, every time they release the newer versions, they add features. So if you're currently running on a 2003 or even a 2000 Exchange server, wow, night and day difference between the latest version and those as far as functionality, speed, and capability. So yeah, the other nice thing about the hosted is you can pretty painlessly move to the newer versions without a lot of headaches.
Excellent. So we talk about this control panel, and this is something that you kind of do a lot of work in, but also clients can kind of manipulate their own control panel a little bit too. Is that right?
Right. So depending on how much control you want to actually give to your users, the normal situation we have is we'll let the people in the customer's IT department have pretty much full control over the control panel so that they can do whatever they need to do to get work done. Or in the smaller clients' cases, if maybe you don't have an IT department, bear in mind that through us with the hosting, we kind of act as your email administrator. So if you need, technical things done like setting up a phone or setting up a new email inbox or something like that, we can certainly take care of that for you. But in the cases that the customer wants to control their own stuff, you can have full access to the control panel. You can also then decide, do you want your users to be able to log in and do things for themselves, like, for instance, reset their passwords or, possibly add a new email alias to their account or something like that. So those are all things that are fully configurable in the control panel itself. And like I said, you get to decide how much access certain people will have, as well as they do have our hosting provider has a pretty extensive knowledge base that you would have access to that will allow you to search for very common things that you might need to do, like setting up Outlook or setting up an Android phone or an iPhone or something like that. So all that stuff comes with the product, and it's all available to you, the customer. Or if you don't want anything to do with it and would rather have us handle it, that's available as well. So
excellent. And I think we have some pictures of it here. Ashley, you kind of sent me some of these. You blanked out some of the...
Right. So this is just the main screen. It's all web-based. You don't have to download and install any software to manage it. It's all based on just browsing to a particular site and securely logging into it. And then this is just the main starting control panel here, which allows you to go in and create mailboxes, change information, create distribution lists, manage the top-level public folders, go in and allow somebody to use a BlackBerry phone on their account or set up Active Sync on their device. So, this is basically the launching point where you start. And again, we just kind of wanted to show you that it is just a website. So somebody who can browse the web is perfectly capable of getting in and making the changes that need to be made. Or again, if you don't ever want to see this and want us to take care of it, that's something we do as well.
And something I think I understood you say is that you could limit what the end user has a capability. So, for example, I just want them to be able to access the email from either the web or their desktop, but no mobile clients. Can you kind of control them that way, or how?
Definitely, yeah. You can turn on or off anything. Obviously, most people are going to have Outlook access, meaning that they'll have the Outlook desktop client on their laptop or their desktop computer and get their email that way. Everything else can be turned on or off. You can turn webmail on or off. You can turn the phone and tablet syncing on and off. You can turn the BlackBerry stuff on and off. All that stuff is fully configurable. So the other nice thing about that is some products are all or nothing, meaning that if you want to go in and give somebody access to a BlackBerry enterprise functionality, you have to turn it on for all the accounts. That's not the way that this particular product works. You can turn it on individually. So if only one person, if you're a small business and you've got 10 employees and maybe only 2 or 3 people even have smartphones that need that access, but all 10 of them have email addresses, then you can certainly only turn on that access for those 3 people. And in some cases, some of this stuff there's an extra charge for, but you're only paying for the people who are using it versus some of the other products I've seen where it's all or nothing. You turn it on and you're paying for people that won't even use it. So,
excellent. Another screenshot you sent me, maybe you can tell us what this means in particular?
Right. Unfortunately, I had to black out all the names in here, but under the giant black box would be the person, the user's name, and the email address. And then basically you can kind of see off to the right there. The picture is a little small. I apologize. But the different features that can be turned on or off, with green check boxes, and then the little green dot underneath the check mark means that Active Sync is turned on for those particular users. So this was just kind of to show you another, portion of the web interface. And again, that, there's nothing really technical about it. You're not going to be working at a command prompt or asked to do anything like that as far as managing the product goes. It's all done with very basic web interfaces that you can, click checkboxes and tabs and stuff like that to get done what you need to get done.
Excellent. And I think this is our last one. It shows creating a user.
Right. So yeah, if you need to create a new user, it's as easy as coming in here and checking the Exchange box, putting in their display name, their email address, what you want their password to be, and then in this particular case, I'm adding 2 users, and then it will go through and create the accounts for you. So you're doing something here. On one page by filling in some information that you would have to run through a little wizard on an actual Exchange server. So doing it here will save you time as well, mostly because you're doing it in one spot. You hit Add User and you're done. On the Exchange side, you have to run through the wizard and create an Active Directory account and do all kinds of other stuff to get the account up and running. So they've really streamlined the process on the hosted side as well.
Excellent. And then most recently, we've been getting a lot of requests for encrypted email, and I guess I have 2 questions on that, Ashley. I assume my email was secure in the first place. Is that not true?
Absolutely not. Email is in no way, shape, or form secure unless you've taken the steps to make it secure. I don't want to panic anybody, but technically, from a technology level, if you send something through regular standard email, if somebody were set up to do so and actually did want to do so, there is no reason why they could not intercept that mail if they had the means to do it and then read whatever was in it. So anything you send out through email is in no way, shape, or form secure unless you have some sort of encrypted email product, which some of you may have been forced to use, or maybe you use it with your bank or something like that. But yeah, as a general rule, email is in no way, shape, or form secure.
And I've been working in this industry for quite a while, and that came for a big shock for me. And the reasons I think that we're seeing customers going to this is things like HIPAA and regulatory compliance for financial institutions, those kind of things. And I only bring it up as it's something we can layer on top of this. There's multiple products that we can use to do that, including the hosting company. But it can also work automatically. Is that right? So if I send an account number in an email, it automatically identifies that that's a Social Security number, something like that, and then requires that to be encrypted. Is that how that works?
Right. So if you use the encrypted email features, and this is pretty standard across most of the encrypted mail products out there today, most of them will have some built-in rules that you can enable, such as Social Security numbers or credit card numbers or stuff like that, where basically you can tell the product that if it sees an email and it sees this particular pattern in the email, it needs to not send it the standard way and switch over and send it as an encrypted email instead. And just so, if the people on the call are not familiar with encrypted email and the way it works, really the only difference is when you send an encrypted message to somebody, instead of actually receiving the email message that you sent them, they will get an email message from the encrypted product that will tell them they have a secure message waiting for them. It will link them to a secure website that they go to. If it's the first time they've ever used it, they'll be asked to create an account, which they go ahead and do, and then confirm the account, and then they'll be able to log in and see the message. If it's somebody that you've done business with before or emailed securely before and they've already set up an account, they can simply log in with that same account and get back in to get that message. So everything is handled through HTTPS encryption, making it secure so that that email never actually gets out to the outside world in its plain text format, and that's how they keep it from being vulnerable as far as people that may want to see it are concerned.
Excellent. And then, of course, I made a really simple bar chart here, kind of some of the basic things when it comes to all this. And, from an infrastructure standpoint, these are SAS 70 Type 2 data centers, so they are fully secure in the data center, realizing that if you use the encryption, that's where you take advantage of that. It is fully replicated, so there's no single point of failure. And, of course, all services are audited, and I know we can provide documentation of that. And, of course, we're using high-end infrastructure to actually pass the mail. So from a migration standpoint, I know that this title of Active Directory is on here, and I know that's a big deal, but for some of our bigger customers that have Active Directory, you can really suck up their usernames and everything and create their accounts without having to manually enter them in. Is that right?
Right. So with our particular hosting provider, the cutoff that they decided to use for small business and larger customers is 25 users. So anybody that has 25 users and over, the migration process is a little bit different because it's a lot more automated than the smaller users. It's easily doable either way. I don't want to make it sound like the small business users don't have the account's the same and everything like that. It's just that they've determined that once you get to 25 users, it just takes a lot less time to migrate people in a little bit different manner. But as far as Active Directory is concerned, if you don't have an Active Directory infrastructure currently, then you can ignore what we're about to talk about. But if you do have Active Directory in place, then we have tools available that will allow us to actually pull the data that you have in your Active Directory out and import it into the hosted Exchange side. That basically sets everything up pretty much automatically, so that if you're worried because you've got 200 users and you don't want to have to sit at that web control panel and each one of those in there, don't worry about it, because they've got a tool that will actually go into your Active Directory and pull all of your email address and usernames out and create those up on the server automatically. So that's something that's provided with their what they call their concierge service. Again, for 25 users and over, it's available and it does work very well. We've done it multiple times with no problem. So bear in mind that some people might throw up a red flag and say, well, gosh, I don't want my Active Directory information being pulled and sent to somebody I'm just hosting email with. Well, it only pulls the actual account names, and then if you've entered any data for say like their address or stuff like that, and even that can be left out if you don't want it. So it's strictly for creating mailboxes. It doesn't actually pull passwords or anything like that out. That being said, though, after the setup is done, they also have a nifty tool that will allow you to sync your password between your Active Directory and your email account. That way, if you change something locally, it will actually sync up to the email account up online, which is nice. But as far as the migration is concerned, if you're below 25 users, it's a fairly manual process. But it's not necessarily any harder than doing it the other way. It's just that they don't use some of the different methods with those. But still, like I said, very easy to do, and that's something that obviously we provide with the service as far as the hosted is concerned, is the migration part as well.
And then if I didn't understand most of what you said there, I get you to come help me do that.
That's right. Yeah. If you don't want to touch it, again, just like if you don't want to touch the control panel, then we can help you every step of the way and provide the plan and go through and do it for you. And as far as you're concerned, you show up the next morning or the next day when we do the cutover, and you're on your new email service.
Excellent. And then, of course, control, we already talked about. A lot of that control panel is user-based administration and those kind of things. And then, of course, support. They can call Nex-Tech and get support.
Right. They can call us directly and have us either take care of the issue or open up a case with our hosting provider. If you're a larger shop and you'd rather not go through us as a middleman, you can call the hosting provider directly. The account is in the customer's name. We are listed as a reseller, so we do have access to the account as well. But we offer either scenario. And if you are a smaller shop that doesn't have an IT department or anything like that, again, we can handle all of the support requests internally here and take care of it end-to-end for you.
Excellent. And of course, we already talked about those 5 nines, and I just took a real small piece of this SLA where it defines what all that means. But one of the things we offer our customers is a full SLA that defines all of the terms of uptime and penalties and all that stuff. And I just put a small piece of it in there, but it is available, so we do put that in writing. And so then, of course, customer, one of their biggest things, you kind of already touched on it, but customer signs on and says, yeah, I want this product, then what? They sit down with you, actually?
Right. So, if you contact Steve or somebody within the sales department and tell them you'd like to look at it, then what we will probably do is set up a time to meet with you, whether it's in person or over the phone, whatever we need to do, just to kind of get an idea of exactly what you have in place now and what you're going to want going forward. And then as far as moving forward with the actual installation and the migration and stuff like that, it can be done in as little time as a week, or it can span over a month, depending on what your needs are, as far as to how quickly you need to move over to it. I can literally have an account created within 15 minutes and ready to go, but there are some other things that need to happen, for the actual usage of that account to happen. So yeah, the other thing that I would like, and I don't know if you're going to have this later in the slides, but the other thing I would like to mention is that we do demos as well. I mean, if this is something that you would like to demo, you're not sure that you want it, you're not sure that it's going to give you any functionality that you like, we can set up a quick demo account for you and allow you to use the product and find out if it's something that you think you might like. And if not, then no harm, no foul. The account gets deleted and you go about your way. But if it's something that you like, then we turn that into a full account and get your actual domain migrated over, and you can start using the product as soon as we get that done.
Yeah, that is a great point. I did not include that on here, so thank you for that, Ashley. Really, that's all. And I noticed that we have one question, and that question specifically hinges around archiving. A lot of people are starting to have requirements to archive email so that, I don't know, if they get into a legal situation, they have to pull email about a certain topic or from some user to another user or from another user to that user. Is that included? How does that work?
It's not included. I mean, they have the ability to archive. It is an additional feature, so there is an additional charge for it. They've got 2 different kinds of archiving. They've got the very basic archiving. If anybody out there is familiar with what a journaling mailbox is, that's basically what they set up for you, is a journaling mailbox, which in effect collects every piece of mail that goes in or out of your server for you to store. You can either leave it up on the server and purchase extra space from the hosting provider as needed, or you can archive it to a local file and save it on an external hard drive or DVD or something like that, depending on what your needs are. They also offer the ability to do third-party archiving, which basically means you could actually use any archiving service that you like. If you've got one already that you're currently using, or one that you've had your eye on, or they have a preferred archiving provider if you don't have one at this time but would need it. So yes, they do support full archiving from the most basic level at the journaling mailbox all the way up to basically setting up a third-party archiving company to come into that mailbox and pull all the data from it and then basically store it in a way that's searchable and everything like that, besides using just like an Outlook client. So the short answer is yes. The long answer is there's multiple types. And that's something that we would obviously want to determine when we do the initial meeting as far as to what you would need.
Wow, I got to be honest, when we first set up this topic, the idea of taking a whole topic on just email didn't seem possible, but here we sit 40 minutes into this, and I don't even think we covered all of it, because we didn't even cover some of the aspects of spam filtering and the end user being able to pull messages out of a spam filter if it got blacklisted for some particular reason, and some of those finer details. But with that, Tricia, I'm going to turn this back over to you to kind of weed out through any questions that we have and open up the phone lines.
Okay, I do have a few questions, and I will remind you that you can still enter your question and we'll get it answered. I have about 5 questions right here. So first off, does it work with other carriers such as Verizon, that's mobile devices? That's what they're referring to.
Yes, the mobility connectivity for ActiveSync and for BlackBerry should work regardless of any cell provider, as long as you have a data plan that allows your phone to basically, if you can get internet on your phone and it supports ActiveSync, or if it's a BlackBerry, it'll support the BlackBerry Enterprise Services? The answer is yes. It does not matter which provider you're on.
Okay, that kind of led into the next question, where is there a data limit?
As far as data on the cell phone, that would be up to your provider itself. As far as getting information to or from your mailbox, no. There's no transfer limit. So if you're sending or receiving a lot of email, as far as I know, there are no limitations to how much email you can send or receive. I've never seen anything about it. Now, I would say if you're going to be doing some sort of marketing plan or something like that, and you're going to need to be sending, thousands or tens of thousands of emails, that's something I would definitely want to discuss with the hosting provider before going up with that. But as far as connecting up with phones, tablets, computers, webmail, and sending and receiving mail, no. The hosting provider does not have any data caps that I'm aware of.
Okay, and I think we touched on this, but does it work with Outlook?
Yes. The current Exchange 2010, just so everybody is aware, does require Outlook 2007 and higher. So you have to have either Office 2007 or Outlook 2007 or higher to use the product. The option, if you don't want to use Outlook, by the way, if you don't want to purchase it, you don't currently own it, or if you have 2003 and don't necessarily want to upgrade, the webmail is very functional. Please don't sell it short, because the 2010 version of webmail and Exchange is almost as functional as Outlook is. They've done a very good job with it. I would love to show it to you sometime if you have a concern about that. Otherwise, you do have to have Outlook 2007 or higher. It does support Entourage on Mac, by the way, which is Microsoft's Outlook for Macintosh. I can't remember which version it is, but I think it's like the last 2 versions it does support.
And that's either way, whether it's on-site or hosted too. None of those limitations are.
Right. That's a Microsoft limitation. The Outlook version is. It's not a hosted limitation.
Okay, great. And the last question I have, is this POP3 or IMAP?
It's actually neither, unless you want it to be. The hosting provider does support both POP3 and IMAP, but the preferred connection is what they actually refer to as Outlook Anywhere, which is basically a proprietary Microsoft protocol that they've been using with Exchange for years. And so when you connect your Outlook client up, if you normally go in and select POP3 or IMAP or something like that, in this case you would actually be selecting Microsoft Exchange Server and then entering your server information in that way, which allows for all the calendar syncing and everything like that for a seamless connection. So if you have something that's POP3 or IMAP only, it does support that. However, the preferred connection is with the Outlook Anywhere stuff, or, again, webmail, which is obviously just a browser.
And Ashley, one of the key points here, too, is if you're used to maybe a POP3 account, one of the big advantages to Exchange when you have these multiple devices like I do is, really, if I delete it on my cell phone, it's deleted on my computer. Or if I want to make a calendar entry on my computer, it's now changed on my cell phone, and all that stuff interacts together. Whereas in POP3, you really didn't get all that true functionality. Is that right?
Right. The way that Exchange is set up, all the data is actually stored on the server, and it never leaves the server unless you delete something. All the devices that you have connected to it, like your desktop computer or laptop computer, your phone, your tablet, all that stuff, basically just sync with that mailbox. So you're correct. If you delete it on your phone, if you go in and delete an email on your phone, it will actually delete it off the server. The next time you turn Outlook on your computer, it will see that, it will sync it, and that email will not be on your computer as well. So you've got all your data in one location, safely stored on the server. And even if you lose a device, if your computer crashes or if your phone falls into the lake or something like that, your data is safe. And it's up on the server. It's still there. You haven't lost anything. When you get your phone replaced or your computer repaired, it will resync all the email and all that stuff back down to whatever device it is you're working on. So right, the biggest difference between POP3 is the fact that everything is stored up on the server at all times, and that's where your real-time data is at, and then the devices you connect up to it are simply just replicating that down to themselves.
And of course, I know I have an Android and an Apple both, and one of the key features I like is sometimes I file an email and then I'm on the road and I'm like, man, I wish I could get to that. Well, I can get to my folders through my data plan. I can get to those older emails. I can get to all my email on any one of those devices pretty much all the time.
Right, yeah. I mean, the devices can be configured differently as far as to how long of a history you want on the particular device, but that's correct. If you have it to grab a folder, it will certainly be there on that device when you need it.
Okay, that's all the questions I have from everyone right now. I do want to thank everyone for attending and let them know that we have another webinar in just a week away, which is August 29th, our fastest 16 minutes in technology webinar, and this time we're going to cover the cloud. Our next Tech Talk, however, will be September 19th at 10 o'clock again, and that topic will be security and surveillance for both business and home. Also a reminder that this webinar is recorded and will be out on our nextech.com/free webinar site under the archive section, where you'll also find all of our previous webinars. So thank you for attending and look forward to seeing you on the webinar next time. Thanks. Bye.